Here's how imagination creates reality. This is Hyptoria. Hypnotize you to manifest. Before there was light, there was thought. Before life blooms in form, it germinates in imagination. Your inner world is the real genesis of everything. You are not witnessing life, you're authoring it. The outer reality you walk through each day isn't a puzzle to decode, but a painting made of your inner imagery. Most people spend their lives trying to rearrange the brushstrokes on the canvas, not realizing they're holding the brush the entire time. Creation doesn't begin at action or reaction. It begins much earlier, in the invisible workshop of your mind. With every idea you entertain, with every picture you contemplate, with every dream you dare to feel, you whisper instructions to matter. Imagination is not a child's game. It's not a fleeting fantasy. It's not immature or indulgent. It is the origin of substance, the unseen source that shapes the scene. When you understand this, you stop chasing reality. You begin forming it. Like a sculptor running hands along invisible clay, molding what will soon be touched by time, your inner visions are not meaningless. They are the blueprint. Everything formed began as formless, and everything formless is made visible by belief. Lesson 1. Imagination is the first creation. Look around you. The room you're in, the clothes you wear, the life you live. At some point, each piece was first imagined. There is nothing in your experience that did not begin inside the mind of a person who thought it could be. Your own birth was imagined before it became breath. The love you've searched for, first created in longing. The career you've stepped into, once a shimmer of possibility, before it solidified in time. You are constantly walking through previous pictures, not of things you drew with pencils, but of ideas you allowed to live in your inner theater. The most important truth you can awaken to is this: the first creation always happens within. You do not wait for evidence, you create the feeling. You don't require validation, you generate the knowing. And in doing so, worlds reorganize around you without resistance. Nothing needs to be fixed, only felt differently. Imagination is not daydreaming, it's not escape, it's a rehearsal of reality. When you sit quietly and envision yourself living a life you deeply long for, when you allow yourself to feel the warmth of that future sun, to hear the laughter of love, to live in the rhythm of abundance before it's here, you are not pretending, you're preparing. You're establishing it in vibrational memory. You are casting the mold from which your life will be poured. People often ask, where do I begin? You begin in imagination. Before action, before strategy, before planning, there must be vision. Clear, compelling, emotionally resonant vision. Without it, all action becomes frantic fixing rather than inspired unfolding. But with it, a single inner moment can move mountains. It can call forth paths, align encounters, reroute time. When something doesn't yet exist in your world, it's not because you have to earn it. It's most often because you haven't yet dared to fully imagine it. Or, you've imagined not having it more vividly. The universe is not deciding what's possible for you. It's mirroring what you continually impress upon consciousness. The invitation is simple. Dare to be vivid. Dare to feel it before you see it. Dare to see it deeper than the doubt. You're not meant to wait and hope. You're meant to imagine and know. Know it is so vividly real that reality has no choice but to conform. When you gaze inward and deliberately hold the scene of your desired life, feel it, inhabit it, rehearse it, you enter the first creative phase. You set into motion what must take shape. Not by strain, not by chance, but by spiritual law. This is not wishful thinking. It's lawful imagining. There is a difference. One wavers in doubt, calls it maybe, and waits to see. The other walks in knowing, calls it done, and lets reality catch up. What you dwell on within becomes destination without. The first creation is not physical, it's spiritual. And spiritual creation is always sovereign over material things. The moment you imagine something vividly and feel it deeply, you shift timelines. You step into a new storyline where that desire already exists. All that remains is embodiment, simply the curtain between acts. And time is. So what pictures are you living by? What worlds are you building in your mind? What scenes do you rehearse before bed, even when half asleep? You are painting your life with feelings, tones, desires, assumptions. Every mental image is casting its vote for your future. Don't wait for the world to show you permission. Start now. Step inward, pick up the brush, and remember, nothing you imagine is wasted. Nothing you feel as real is denied. Imagination is the first creation, and creation begins now, within you. Lesson 2. Feeling is the builder of the imagined. Imagination fashions the frame, but feeling lays the bricks. Whatever you see inwardly is only potential until it is loved inwardly. Thought begins the blueprint, but it is feeling that breathes breath into the bones of what you desire. Without emotion, even the most beautiful vision remains suspended, bright but bodiless. But the moment you feel into it, as if it were already yours, you give it shape. You bring weight to the unseen and begin pressing it into the mold of physicality. Because feeling isn't reactive, feeling is formative. Your emotions are direct communion with the creative force that animates the universe. They are not passengers to circumstance, they are authors of it. The world bends to deep felt conviction, not to surface level wishing. You may imagine a new home, a thriving business, a soulmate kind of love, but unless you feel the essence of that wish as real now, it lingers only in the realm of potential. What you feel you fuse with. What you consistently feel becomes fused in form. It is not effort that unfolds the manifestation. It is inner attendance to the mood, the texture, the inner climate. When you think a thought and pair it with a sensation, a sigh of relief, a flutter of joy, a spine-deep knowing, you transmit that desire as already done. You take it out of wanting and bring it into having. Emotion is not the result of a fulfilled manifestation. It is the raw material of it. That is why a few seconds of embodied feeling can impress more swiftly than years of repetitive declarations. One moment of imagined gratitude, sincerely felt, reorders reality more than any chant spoken from doubt. So often we wait to feel the relief until life presents the evidence. But manifestation doesn't work that way. That old paradigm is slow. In the divine system, emotion precedes evidence. Success doesn't bring satisfaction. Satisfaction brings success. The energetic body you wear while imagining determines the body of your reality. If you habitually dwell in lack, even if you visualize abundance, the feeling form you're breathing into the image is contradiction, and contradiction produces delay, distortion, or disappointment. But what if you became deeply consistent with one emotional frequency? Not because the world showed you reason, but because you decided to feel as if. What happens when you summon the feeling of love before the lover, the feeling of freedom before the finances flow, the calm of success before the result? You become magnetic to the expressions that match those moods. Everything begins to organize itself in secret to mirror what you feel is already yours. Don't worry about how the desire arrives. That's not the feeling's job, it's the universe's. Your part is to feel fully, to dwell in that space of inner knowing so completely that imagination becomes a lived experience. When your inner state equals the outcome desired, the bridge between seen and unseen begins to build itself. The people, places, meetings, signs, shifts, all orchestrate beneath the surface, responding to you. Not the external you, but the interior climate you continue to choose. Feeling is not something you wait on. It is something you create on demand. It's your divine right to conjure joy, peace, ecstasy, worthiness, not after the event, but before. That is the mystery of divine imagination. Once you feel what is imagined long enough, it becomes so real to you that the outer world must reflect it in time. Persistence in the feeling is the builder's hand. Each time you return to the emotion of the wish fulfilled, you lay another brick. You affirm again that this is who I am, this is what I have, this is what I live. Now, the unseen is temperature sensitive. Your desires crystallize by the fire of your feeling state. Hold a cold wish, and it shivers in delay. Warm it with joy, and it takes shape in light. This is why you must not wait for signs or confirmation before entering the state. The state is what signals reality to take shape. You do not look to the world to determine what to feel. You look within until the world catches up. A temple imagined is just a sketch until it's felt as lived in. The key is not to think more vividly, but to feel more faithfully. Enter the prayer of your desire not with pleading, but with knowing, not with absence, but with presence. Feel it, not because you hope it's coming, but because it's already here in the secret chambers of your being. That is when reality begins to listen. that is when the quantum moves. That is when the world conspires, not against you, but within you. Because what you feel is true becomes true not someday, but now. Let the feeling lead. Let it build the bridge. Let your emotion become the mortar between imagination and form. For when you feel it real, it begins to become. Lesson 3. Reality is a reflection of assumed images. Reality isn't personal. It's reflective. It does not reward hard work alone, nor effort without alignment. It simply takes orders from within and unfolds those instructions into form. No negotiation, no delay, only demonstration. And the instructions come in one language, ASM. What you assume to be true becomes truth. Not because it is inherently so, but because your belief in it impresses your subconscious, and your subconscious calibrates your reality to match. You don't experience what you want. You experience what you normalize. Life answers, not to desperation, but to embodiment, and assumption is how you embody a state without needing proof from the outside. Often, people wait for signs. They wait for the 3D world to change before they feel something new inside. But this is spiritual backwardness. The outer world is not the cause of your state, it's the photocopy of it. The printer doesn't tell the document what to say, it simply reflects. What you feel habitually, what you expect in silence, what you assume when no one is watching, that is the template from which your life is printed. Look around you. Chaos or calm, abundance or lack, love or loneliness, all of it has roots in an inner image, not always conscious. Many assumptions are soaked into us through repetition, society, family patterns, media, memory. But whether you planted the seed or inherited it, what's growing in your life is the echo of images long held as truth. Assumptions aren't thoughts that pass like clouds. They're thoughts so saturated with belief they settle. They take up residence. You stop questioning them. This is just how relationships are. It's hard to succeed unless you struggle. Money doesn't come easily. At first, they're just thoughts. But when unchallenged, they become inner truths. And inner truth becomes outer scripts. But here's the eternal freedom. Assumptions can be rewritten, right now. This moment, you can choose to assume differently, and reality must bend. It might not happen overnight, but it will shift faithfully, because it always does. Imagine walking through a hall of mirrors, not to check your appearance, but to see your being reflected back. Each mirror doesn't change you, it shows you what you're already carrying. The world mirrors assumption in just the same way, faithfully, precisely, without deviation. Nothing can appear in a mirror unless it first exists in front of it. Likewise, nothing can persist in your world unless it first persists in you. This is why efforts taken only in the external world often tire the soul. You hustle, chase, struggle, and your essence grows weary, because action without the shift in assumption is pushing against a script your subconscious is still projecting. You can't outrun a belief. You have to surgically update it from within. Close your eyes and assume new things. Not vaguely, but viscerally. Assume you are already chosen, already wealthy, already seen and celebrated, and not just in a wishful moment, but with consistency. Nurture the assumption like a sacred fire. Not neediness, not pretending, but quiet knowing. This is who I am now. Carry that assumption until it stops feeling special, until it becomes normal. Once you believe it's normal, the world will too. It's not magic, it's spiritual mechanics. Reality can't resist a well-impressed assumption. It tries to catch up with it, harmonize with it, reflect it back. Not as a reward, but as a response. That's how creation was designed, from inside out. This is the unseen formula behind all creation. You assume something, you feel it until it sticks. You think from it until your inner world is saturated, and the outer world, faithful and obedient, displays it in kind. Not always all at once, but always accurately. This is law. So be careful what you permit to nest in your inner chambers. What you call just a thought today becomes a reality seen tomorrow. Replace idle assumptions with intentional ones. Choose the inner image you'd be proud to live inside of. Then assume it, again and again, until it feels like home. You don't need to force your 3D world to change. That's not your job. Your only task is to live inwardly as if the change has already occurred. The rest is handled by the law of reflection. The mirror doesn't lie. Life doesn't lie. It simply shows you what you've already decided is true. Let those assumptions be sacred, Let them be chosen. Let them reflect beauty, wholeness, power, and peace. And watch the mirror shimmer with that exact image. Lesson 4. The world follows your inner pictures. The stage is dark until you cast the vision. The script is silent until your inner pictures begin to come, speak. From the moment you close your eyes and see differently within, the outer world starts to rearrange itself in total obedience to the images you hold. This is not philosophy, it is law. The law that says the external follows, never leads. You are not a satellite of circumstance. You are the satellite dish, calling in the signal of reality based on what you consistently imagine. Inner imagery is not child's play. What you mentally rehearse, envision, and accept as real becomes the architecture of your life. The world was never outside of your command. It is simply the playback of the visions you've released with feeling. You do not need to manipulate the screen. You only need to direct the film. Look back at any season of your life when something magnificent seemed to evoke. Just happen. If you pay attention, you'll realize the event was preceded by inner knowing, silent daydreams, emotional alignments, or flashes of anticipation. Whether conscious or unconscious, you saw it first, and the world followed. This is the divine pattern, hidden in plain sight. The world is malleable, yielding, incredibly responsive, but only to the voice within that knows. That voice speaks not in loud declarations, but in quiet conviction. You cannot fake inner knowing. It's a frequency, not a performance. When your inner picture is alive, detailed, saturated with belief and emotion, the outer realm has no choice but to mirror it. That is why the most sacred work you will ever do is in the silence of imagination. Understand this. Imagination is not a retreat, it is your headquarters of creation. Most people try to hustle the outer world into compliance, forgetting that force is a poor substitute for alignment. True change begins with a new picture inward, layered in identity and embodied emotion. You are not changing a situation, you are changing the beholder behind the eyes. You cannot outrun the pictures you hold of yourself. No matter how skilled, how hardworking, how lucky, your world will never outgrow your self-image. The wealth you imagine yourself too small to receive will find someone else. The love you believe yourself still unworthy of will walk past. But the moment you shift the picture within, the world will bend toward your new reflection without hesitation. This is why inner work is outer revolution. Close your eyes often, not to escape, but to design. Imagine not as a wish, but as a fact in formation. When you mentally live in the home you desire, when you feel the embrace of the partner you love, when you walk in the room as the self who already is, the image is cast, the spell is set, and the earth begins to move. The key is consistency. One fleeting thought means little, but an inner picture assumed, revisited, felt into, that is creation in motion. That is prayer without words, command without force, faith without effort. Reality responds not to your momentary wishes, but to your continued assumptions. Every day becomes a rehearsal of what you're still choosing to see. So let your mind replay what you wish to claim. Dress the stage of your inner theater with beauty. Script scenes from within that feel so natural, so real you can't help but smile before they happen. You are not waiting for reality to catch up. Reality is waiting for you to see it as done. Your job is not to beg, chase, or worry. Your work is vision. To see your life as though it already is. To see yourself as you truly are. Carrying images so vivid, the world cannot help but answer them. And it will. Life may seem unpredictable, but it is always loyal to the pictures you're honoring inside. So don't ask how it will come, or when. Ask instead, what am I seeing within me right now? Am I rehearsing possibility, or repeating limitation? Am I watering the seed of my divine image, or letting it wither with disbelief? Every thought with feeling is a picture in motion. Invite only the ones you'd want to frame. The unseen is listening. The field is watching. The mirror is waiting. Now, what are you picturing? Because the world is already following. Lesson 5. You're always imagining, Xavier. Choose wisely. You are never not imagining. Even in the quietest corners of your day, you are clothing thoughts with feeling, streaming mental images across the canvas of your mind. You imagine in dreams, in passing fears, in idle hopes, in every reaction and replay. The question is not whether you're manifesting, but whether you're doing so on purpose. The mind never sleeps and the imagination never pauses. It is the most consistent, faithful companion you have, obedient, precise, and non-judging. What you feed it, it multiplies. What you rehearse, it prepares. What you fear, it begins to carve a path toward. And what you love into being, it quickens. The moment you understand this, your life begins to shift. There is no neutral imagining, no harmless daydream, no casual assumption. Every scene that plays out within you leaves an imprint, one the universe recognizes and mirrors. The power is not simply in dramatic visualizations or candlelit rituals, but in the everyday stream of thought and feeling you allow to live in you. The sighs, the inner complaints, the doubts whispered while brushing your teeth. These are acts of imagination too. You cast spells far more often than you think. To imagine wisely is to become sovereign over your inner world. It is to rise each day, not reactive to yesterday, but generative of tomorrow. Most imagine on repeat, cycling through the exact same thoughts they had yesterday, laced with the same emotions, creating familiar outcomes that feel inevitable. This is not fate, this is habit. And habit can be rewritten. You are the author of today's tone. You are holding the quill every moment your mind is active. So what are you scripting right now, with your inner commentary, your emotional focus, your quiet longing, or quiet dread? You're writing futures, you're building bridges to the next moment and the next year. You can choose to assume that something magical is unfolding, even when you don't yet see how. You can choose to see yourself as chosen, guided, rich with grace. These are not delusions, they are decisions of the divine, and your reality becomes eager to comply. The truth is, we've all imagined unconsciously for so long that it feels normal. We get used to wearing identities that were assembled out of other people's fears, out of cultural narratives, out of old moments that didn't go our way. But that's not you. That's just an old image set on loop. And the good news is, you can change the real. You can reach into the studio of your soul and pick a new film, one where you are met with love, one where your work feels like wonder, one where peace isn't earned, but simply remembered. There is no punishment for past imaginations you didn't realize were shaping your world. There is only a gentle awakening. Right now, in this very moment, you can become holy in your focus, not in a solemn way, but in a reverent one. You can begin to imagine yourself as already whole, begin to feel the echo of the wish fulfilled, begin to wear joy like a second skin. You don't need to strain to imagine wisely. You just need to care. Care enough to notice what you're feeding. Care enough to pause when your mind starts rehearsing worry like it's a script. Care enough to replace it with a better scene, not because it's practical, but because it's powerful. When you strike a match in a dark room, the light doesn't argue with the past, it simply enters. That's how quickly things shift when you choose a better imagination. The room inside you brightens, your body relaxes, your frequency rises, and suddenly, new people, new ideas, new opportunities begin to echo the new play you're rehearsing within. You're not hoping anymore, you're harmonizing. The more consciously you imagine, the more peace you feel, even before things appear. Because manifestation is never just about getting, it's about becoming. Becoming so sure of what you know within that the outer world has no choice but to catch up. So bless your imagination. Speak lovingly to it. Use it like the sacred instrument it is. You don't need more evidence to feel secure when you're the one fabricating evidence with each feeling. Begin now, even softly. Imagine better, not only when it's easy, but precisely when it's hard. That's when the shift begins. Not when the world changes, but when your picture of it does. You are always imagining. Choose wisely. Lesson 6. Living from versus looking at. The distance between you and what you desire is not measured in time or effort. It is measured in perspective. Most people look at their dreams as if they are across a field, down a timeline, in the one-day version of reality. They stand as spectators, wishing, hoping, sometimes even begging, but always gazing. And while their hearts may burn with longing, longing alone does not create. Creation occurs not through observation, but through assumption. Not by looking at it, but by living from it. To live from is to shift your center. It's to inhabit a truth so deeply that your identity bends to it. When you live from your vision, you walk, speak, and feel as the one who already holds the outcome, not because you're pretending, but because you are owning. It becomes your natural way of being. This is how imagination turns to embodiment, and embodiment turns to manifestation. You can look at wealth, admire abundance, read about prosperity, and still live from lack. You can visualize the relationship, dream about love, watch others hold it, and still carry the vibration of separation. Looking at a thing maintains a silent agreement that you are not yet living it. And the universe mirrors that message perfectly. It delays. It reflects distance, because you feel distance. It holds up the almost and the not yet, matching your emotional position like a flawless echo. But when you begin to live from truly from, there is no gap. You close time. You collapse separation. You become resonance itself. There's a calm certainty that fills your being. You no longer chase, because you've become it. You're no longer waiting for manifestation. You are the unfolding of it. This is the shift most never make, moving from the outside looking in, to the inside living out. Every state of being has its own thought patterns, emotions, reactions, and choices. The state of already having your desire moves differently than the state of wanting it. Take a moment. Picture the version of you who has it all. The money, the love, the health, the freedom. How do they wake up in the morning? What do they wear? How do they move through a room? What do they assume about life, about themselves, about others? These are not idle exercises. This is the rehearsal of your new normal. This is how you train the subconscious to accept the new arrangement not as possibility, but as fact. Living from does not require outward proof first. That paradigm, I'll believe it when I see it, only serves to slow creation. Spirit speaks the language of I see it because I believed it, and feeling is the voice of that belief. When you feel the fullness of what is already yours, the world reshapes to match it. That is law. This is not delusion, it is design. You may wonder how to live from something that hasn't happened yet, but the question itself reveals the illusion. There is no such thing as hasn't happened yet in consciousness. Everything already exists now in the invisible. You're simply tuning in. Living from means becoming the vibrational match of what was always there, waiting for your alignment to call it forward. You do not need to push for it. You need to occupy it. This is your invitation. Let go of waiting on circumstances. Marry your soul to the state you desire. Breathe from it, think from it, assume from it. Living from the fulfillment, even in invisible spaces, creates a magnetic field that nothing can ignore. Reality doesn't resist embodiment, it rushes to meet it. Stop auditioning for the life you desire. You've already been cast. Step onto the stage of your highest vision, as if the lights are on and the audience is watching. Embrace the costume, the role, the energy, not someday, but now. This is your scene, and you're not just playing the part, you were born for it. When you stop looking at your dream like something waiting to arrive, and start living from it like something you've already received, your world begins to rearrange in service to your new identity. Everything you need bends toward you in response to your state. The shift isn't out there, it's in here. You change where you stand within yourself, and the outside catches up. The stage is set, the scene is written in your favor. Now, walk in it. Lesson 7. Feel it real. The divine rehearsal. There is a place within you where all realities are rehearsed before they are lived. A silent, sacred sanctuary where you get to play the role before the curtain rises. This is not make-believe. It is not a child's fantasy. It is rehearsal, a divine rehearsal of creation through feeling. Feel it real is not a trick to fool the universe. It's the sacred act of training your own subconscious to accept what already belongs to you. To feel something real is to deny appearances and to rest in assumed truth. It is stepping beyond the senses and abiding in the fulfillment, not hoping for it, not craving it, but being it. When you sit quietly and imagine your desire fulfilled, when you feel the joy, the relief, the gratitude, as if your wish were already fact, you shift from desiring to possessing. That instant shift rewires your inner atmosphere. It transforms your frequency, and reality has no choice but to respond in kind. You don't manifest only by picturing something. You manifest by identifying with it. A picture without feeling is like a script without a stage. It reads well, but plays nowhere. Feeling is the costume that allows you to truly inhabit the role. When you feel the end as real, your subconscious accepts this as your current identity. And because life does not flow from what's been said, but from what's been assumed, your new vibration causes a rearrangement of events on your behalf. You don't have to strategize the how. You simply have to feel it true. Many wait for the evidence before they feel the reality. But this reverses the laws of creation. The outer does not lead. The feeling leads. Reality is delayed emotion. It is felt before it's formed, and it takes shape in its season. Feel it now, and watch it materialize. Delay the feeling, and delay the thing. Use your imagination not to escape this world, but to rewire it. When you imagine holding the keys to your dream home, hear the door click open. Let the scent of your lavender garden float in. Stand in your favorite room. Allow the ease and peace to soak into your body. That scene, felt as real, plants the experience into your subconscious and sets creation in motion. Your mind has accepted the blueprint. Your body has felt the music. Now, life must construct the stage. This is why even a few minutes a day can change your world. Because when you enter your mental theater with reverence and emotional precision, you're not just rehearsing the scene, you're becoming the role. And what you become internally cannot help but echo outward. Do not get lost in waiting. Don't dwell in the one day it will happen wilderness. That is the trap of distance, the illusion of separation. Instead, dwell in the experience fulfilled. Let one day become now. Sleep as the version of you who already received. Wake up as the one who knows it's done. Live, breathe, act, and walk in that knowing. You are not entertaining a possibility. You are embodying a fact behind the veil. And yes, you will feel the difference. The shift from longing to likeness. The tone of your thoughts changes. You stop petitioning and start praising. You aren't asking anymore. You're rehearsing a gratitude that already knows. That's when the universe leans in. That's when the world of form begins to mold around your occupied truth. This inner act becomes divine communion. You're meeting your future self in the timeless now. And the more time you spend in that inner chamber of truth, the more your outer world bows to your inner throne. So rehearse boldly, practice faithfully. Enter your imagination every day, like an actor slipping into wardrobe, not because you're pretending, but because you're preparing. This is not a lie you tell yourself. This is a truth you finally dare to claim. And once you feel it real, reality responds with applause. Lesson 8. The secret chamber of the mind. There is a hidden room within you, a sacred inner chamber where no one else can enter unless invited. This chamber is not bound by time or rules, not limited by walls or ceilings. It's the womb of creation, the truest temple, and it exists within your mind. It is here, in silent solitude, beyond surface thought and outer noise, that reality is first formed. This is not imagination as daydreaming. This is imagination as divine communion. Here, in your secret chamber, you become one with the unseen and begin to mold the unseen into seen. When no one is watching, when the world is quiet, and when your mind stops chasing proof, that's when you step into this chamber of cause. You don't need incense or rituals or perfect cushions to access it. The doorway is your attention, and the key is your feeling. The reality you long for, it already exists here. The success you crave, the love you desire, the health, beauty, freedom, and peace, all first live here. And everything that lives here returns to you in kind through the mirror of the outer world. This secret chamber is your throne, and from it, you reign through assumption. Every inner experience you dwell upon becomes a royal decree. But most people use this inner sanctum like a waiting room instead of a creation room, hoping, longing, thinking of things as distant. They look at their desires instead of stepping into the scene and feeling as if they're already true. The difference is everything. The mind cannot cheat the senses of feeling. You can imagine a thing, yes, but if you feel like it's not yours, the chamber floods with resistance, and in that resistance, nothing moves. Your job is not to wait for evidence, but to supply it within. Imagine the feeling of the healed body. Practice the posture of the successful version of you. What would your inner tone sound like if the love of your life was already in your arms? How would your day unfold if the freedom you seek was already yours? These aren't idle games, they are spiritual rehearsals, and your subconscious listens deeply. In this chamber, your inner speech becomes prophecy, your emotions become builders, your mental conversations become sacred contracts. You don't need to shout to the universe, you only need to whisper within, consistently, with feeling. That whisper becomes law. The world is always eavesdropping on what you say to yourself when no one else is around. Most people leave this chamber too quickly. They plant a seed, a moment of imagination, and then yank it out with doubt. They visit the scene but don't stay. They knock but don't walk inside. But the great shift happens when you stop visiting and start dwelling. Abide in the new reality. Rest in it mentally. Play with it emotionally. Let it become familiar to your nervous system, to the cells in your body, to the tone of your breath. Let the imagined become more natural than the visible. This is not pretending. This is preparing. The secret chamber is the place you go not to escape reality, but to sculpt it. It's not indulgence, it's initiation. Your external life is simply sacred residue, hardened shadows of what once flickered in this invisible realm. If you want to know what's being built for you right now, ask yourself what you've been visiting repeatedly in your imagination. Are those scenes worthy of birthing? Are they stories you want to live inside? If not, there is gently no judgment, only recognition and reclamation, because the chamber is always open. The altar is always lit. It is never too late to imagine again, to choose a new scene, to feel a new outcome. The past has no power here, unless you smuggle it in. The future is fluid here. All versions of you exist here, and the one you feed with emotion, repetition, and embodiment is the one who rises into your life. Close your outer eyes. Step back from the noise of needing things to change. Return to the chamber in stillness. Speak only of what you wish to recall tomorrow. Favor only the images you'd want written into your biography. The rest was never yours to carry. You need nothing outside of you. The Holy of Holies is within, and once you claim its power, the world will echo what you've already declared. In that inner place, you are the author. Let your imagination write miracles. Lesson 9. Imagine only what you want to remember. Your imagination is not a place to visit. It is where you live. Every image you nurture in your inner world becomes memory in advance. The future is not waiting for you to arrive. It is remembering what you've already accepted within. And so, if you are the narrator, the sculptor, the dreamer in charge of the internal storyboard, why would you imagine anything you wouldn't want to relive later? There is a divine intelligence within you that records what you present to it. And it does not judge, it does not filter, it does not decide what's good or bad, it only accepts what you feel as true. That means every internal scene you rehearse, whether from fear, worry, or joy, is being etched into your timeline. The question isn't whether you're creating, you are. The question is, what are you recording into memory before it happens? Imagination is memory in reverse. When you dwell on what someone did wrong, when you replay the painful encounter, when you anticipate what could collapse you, are chronicling a script you may not want to replay. But here's the grace. You can change the inner reel any moment. You can edit the story. You can dissolve past scenes by refusing to re-feel them. You can reinvent your life by deciding to imagine only what you want to remember. Your life is not a history of events. It is a collection of felt moments. What you felt deeply, what you believed inwardly, that is what solidified into the shape of your days. And since feeling is the fingerprint of form, every time you feel into a scene that uplifts you, sustains you, or excites you, you're sculpting memory in advance. You're shaping your future self's gratitude. You may not realize how often you revisit what you don't want, because it feels casual, idle, even justified. After all, you're just replaying what happened, right? But in truth, you're reactivating it, reinfusing it, remanifesting a chapter you wish would close. Don't resurrect what you want released. Let the old images fade by no longer feeding them with emotion, and instead, create new memories before they ever happen. Better memories, sacred ones. This is more than positive thinking. This is divine authorship. You are engaging with the intelligence of the universe, the unseen substance that obeys the tone you set within. It does not care if something has happened yet. It responds to how real it feels now. This is the mastery. To imagine peace while the world is loud. To picture wealth before bank accounts shift. to see yourself chosen while still in silence, to script the kind of life you want to remember, even if it hasn't arrived yet. Nothing comes uninvited. Reality shows up dressed in whatever costume you've assigned it. If you keep imagining lack, betrayal, delay, not just picturing it but feeling it, you create a stage for it to enter. But when you whisper success into your mornings, replay love into your evenings, and hold imaginal scenes of wholeness between the moments, you teach your life what to become. Be deliberate with your imagination. Let it be a sanctuary, not a courtroom. Have mercy on your mind. Don't use it to rehearse judgments, regrets, or punishments. Whatever you relive, you re-attract. So make your inner movie a beautiful one, something your future self will thank you for having believed before it was seen. The soul doesn't know the difference between imagination and experience, which is why inner rehearsals feel like memories. They become imprinted as if they happened. So give yourself scenes worth reliving. Talk to yourself as someone who already walked through the victory. Fall asleep in the mood of completion, not concern. Picture the outcome that sets your heart at ease, not as a wish, but as a memory being called back. Because that's the truth of manifestation. It's about remembering ahead of time, calling forth a version of you that has already become what you now desire to dwell in. So from this moment forward, be choosy with your mental cinema. Don't play the reruns of suffering. Don't preview the pain of imagined futures. Close the scenes that don't serve and soften into the ones that do. You are not here to recreate the trauma. You are here to remember joy, on purpose. Imagine only what you want encoded in your life's book, because what you imagine deeply today is what you wake up remembering tomorrow. Lesson 10. Mental conversations create material consequences. You are always talking to someone, even when you're alone. You may think you're replaying a memory, imagining a future talk, or silently venting your thoughts. But every word you whisper in your mind is potent. These inner dialogues are not meaningless echoes. They are orders, blueprints, energy patterns sent into the unseen, summoning form in time. Mental conversation is the most underestimated magical act. You may believe it's just thinking, just daydreaming, just venting, but it's more than that. Every internal monologue you engage in is a spiritual negotiation with reality. The voice inside you, whether filled with self-doubt or divine certainty, dictates the shape your life takes. You've already seen this. Think back to a time you worried yourself sick about a never-happened confrontation. You rehearsed it mentally, vividly, and emotionally. Then one day, a situation uncannily similar unfolded, and you said, "See, I knew it." But perhaps what you knew wasn't a prediction. It was a creation. You didn't just anticipate the outcome, you constructed it through mental rehearsal. Your inner dialogue is not preparation for life, it is life creating itself. That's what most don't understand. You don't speak internally for entertainment. You speak to sculpt vibration into visibility. If your mental conversations are filled with guilt, fear, inadequacy, and repetition of what you don't want, then life, like clay to a mold, conforms to it. One mold is a monologue, and it repeats itself until it's replaced. Speak of yourself as you wish to be, not as you've been. Gently and consistently redirect your inner voice. See the habit for what it is, not shameful, but powerful, and claim the seat of authorship again. Think of your inner dialogue as prayer that never stops, not in the religious sense, but in the sense of communion, a dialogue with your unseen reality, forming behind the veil with every word. You are not merely thinking about outcomes, you are calling them in. In this sacred whisper space, assumptions are reinforced. This is where I can't becomes law, or it's done becomes truth. Every inner back and forth with an imagined partner, a client, a lover, a parent, or your own self is a contract being drafted. Next time you catch yourself complaining silently or arguing in your head, pause. Would you say it if you knew the universe was listening? Because it is. Not in some mystical surveillance way, but through the laws of resonance and reflection. The frequency of your sustained thoughts and emotional tone creates a template that reality follows. Now, begin the divine rehearsal. When you imagine someone congratulating you, thank them. When you hear your own inner voice say, "Of course I have it," that chapter is already written. Let that tone become your dominant frequency. Refuse to inner argue for your limitations. Rewire through repetition. Condition your inner sanctuary with conversations that support the version of you you've stepped into. You do not have to force the world to agree with you. Let your mind walk first. The world will catch up. When your inner pitch rises to the frequency of wish fulfilled, when casual thoughts become supportive mantras, when those pretend dialogues echo back everything you desire, then manifestation speeds like a river melting ice. It feels natural, ordinary, even underwhelming sometimes, but it rains blessings. The task is not to speak perfectly, but to speak powerfully, to become aware of what you're building with your inner voice and honor that quiet speech with reverence. This is not about controlling every thought. It's about choosing which ones to clothe in emotion, which ones to animate, and which you allow to live inside your theater. The more often your mental world reflects your desired world, the shorter the gap becomes. You might find yourself looking at what once was just a conversation, now manifested in flesh. So let the mental chatter begin again, but in your favor. Let your inner world praise you, expect you, love you, invite you into the best case scenario. Think of it this way: every inner conversation is a seed, not a script. So speak as if what you most love is already yours. Because the moment you start speaking in that tone, the soil of reality starts bringing it to bloom. And if you ever doubt, just return to the conversation. Speak again. Speak better. Speak true. Because the world always echoes what the mind has already said. Lesson 11. Saturate your inner world. Your external world can only rise to meet the richness of your internal one. If your inner life is a hollow echo of stress, doubt, or reaction, then the mirror of reality has little to reflect, but distortion. But when your inner landscape is lush, layered, saturated with images of fulfillment, scenes of peace, tones of joy, your life blooms to meet it. This is not about decorating your thoughts occasionally with desire, but marinating in what you want until you become it inwardly. Saturation is not force, it is intimacy. To saturate your mind is to fall in love with the feeling of the end, over and over, gently and deliberately. It's not about efforting to make something happen, but becoming so acquainted with the state of already done that it feels natural, even inevitable. You rehearse the feeling not to convince the universe, but to convince yourself that yes, this is where I dwell now. Imagination must feel like home, not a vacation. Think about music. When a particular song plays on repeat, it begins to color your mood, your energy, your memories. You hum it without trying. It spontaneously surfaces throughout your day. That's what you're doing with the feeling of your fulfilled desire, playing it until it becomes the background soundtrack of your mental space. Saturation means it's no longer something you think about, it's what you think from. It only takes a few seconds of rich emotional immersion to plant a seed, but it takes saturation to nourish it into a tree. You don't need to repeat a scene 1,000 times. You just need to sink fully into it each time, drinking its emotional tone like water. The scene may be simple: a loving embrace, a number on your bank statement, a smile from your future self, but it is alive, vivid and felt through every cell. Let the image breathe in you. Let it become the air your thoughts live in. This is not repetition for repetition's sake. It is how the mind adopts new beliefs, not through logic, but through frequency and feeling. Just as your heartbeat trains itself to rhythmic focus during meditation, your mind trains its identity through habitual dwelling. What do you keep returning to inside yourself? What scenes do you faithfully entertain in the quiet? That is your real home, your dominant state, and that's what shows up around you over time. Saturation also means subtracting what dilutes the vision. If you're tasting joy inwardly, but quickly drowning it with fear, doubt, or mental noise, the signal becomes faint. Not because the dream isn't strong, but because your focus has split. Let saturation be devotional. Let it be consistent, kind, and gently protective. You wouldn't water a plant and then pour oil into its soil. In the same way, tend to your inner world with sacred care. Saturation asks, what are you willing to release that contradicts the feeling you're cultivating? It is not about perfection, but presence. When your inner world is saturated with a mood of completion, that mood begins shaping your choices, postures, words, and outcomes. The universe does not respond to your plea, it responds to your tone. Cultivate the emotional tone of having, and reality molds to match. Do not beg for the thing, become the one who no longer needs to. At first, this may feel like pretending, but what is pretending if not a rehearsal for becoming? Children know this. They drape themselves in costumes and become kings and queens without hesitation. They do not question if the cardboard crown is real. And yet, what is more real than the joy and vitality they pour into their play? Saturation is adult play, sacred, hormonal, commanding, a way of being that doesn't wait to see proof, but lives as proof already. You do not manifest what you visit occasionally, but what you live in continuously. Your imagination, when saturated with the emotion of already having, gives birth to the experience of already being. So saturate until you forget you are ever lacking. Saturate until the desire feels inevitable, until the feeling whispers, yes, this was always yours. Let the inner world be so complete and full, the outer world cannot help but yield to it. This is the alchemy of saturation, turning thought into flesh, unseen into seen, through the gentle flood of repeated, felt, emotional faith. Let your imagination be the rain. Let your inner soil be thirsty. And watch what flowers. Lesson 12. Assume and let go. It is done. There comes a moment in the sacred dance of creation when you must step back and trust. After imagining it vividly, after feeling it real, after allowing your being to dwell in the scene fulfilled, the next act is quiet surrender. Not because you're giving up on your desire, but because you've already claimed it. You've already received it in consciousness. Now, like a seed planted in certainty, you must let it take root without digging it up with doubt. Every act of true imagination is a spiritual decree. When you assume the wish fulfilled, you tell the infinite, this is my truth now. And when rooted in feeling, that assumption is more than wishful thinking. It is causation. It sets a motion into play that no external force can interrupt unless you call it back with resistance. Know this, the moment you assume it, truly feel it as already yours, the universe starts arranging itself to confirm the echo of your inner being. But many short-circuit their own manifestations by clinging too tightly. The need to make it happen becomes the reason it doesn't. Constant checking, doubting, rationalizing, or trying to force reality to follow a certain path, all of these are signs that you don't actually believe it's done. If you did, you'd rest. You'd walk forward in peace. You'd smile because you know reality is just catching up to the image you've already worn within. Letting go is not forgetting, it's trusting. It's releasing the anxious grip and replacing it with sacred confidence. You're not discarding the desire, you're handing it over to higher intelligence, knowing full well where it's headed. You've done the inner work, you've felt the scene, assumed the role, worn the feeling of the fulfilled. Now you move through your day, not with striving, but alignment. Acting naturally, as if what you chose is already unfolding. This is not indifference, this is mastery. When you water a seed, you don't keep checking daily to see if it has sprouted. You trust the unseen process. You know that deep underground, life is forming. So too, when you manifest, there is often a spiritual gestation period. This is not a delay, it is a divine orchestration. The image you've impressed upon the subconscious is now pressing outward, attracting all that is required to fulfill itself. Let it come. Live as though your manifestation is inevitable, because in consciousness, it already is. That's not just positive thinking, that's spiritual law. The moment the desire is assumed and fully felt in consciousness, it exists. Not will exists now, in the invisible. And from the dimension of cause, it will condense into form as surely as night turns into day. But the final piece is crucial. You must stop trying to control how and when. Your next step is inward steadiness. Keep tuning into the version of you that already has it. Act from that place. Speak from that place. Pray from completion, not desperation. There's no need to beg for what belongs to you. Speak your reality as one who knows the outcome, even in the midst of appearing contrast. Your knowing is your magnetic field. It shapes, molds, and pulls the matching outcome to you heart first. Imagine a painter who has completed their masterpiece. They step back, sign their name, and take a breath. They don't keep painting once the image is whole. They know the work is done. That same moment of inner release must visit you when you manifest consciously. Assume it. Sign your name with belief. And then take a breath and let life do what it does. Match the image. Meet you halfway. Confirm your internal decree. You are not creating reality through force. You are allowing the natural bloom of what you've already declared is real. There is power in restraint, power in knowing when to act and when to rest. When you press too hard, you signal fear. When you force it, you delay it. But when you rest in the state of the wish fulfilled and live in that vibration, life becomes your evidence. So now, assume it and let go, not into uncertainty, but into faith. Let your heart be light. Let your steps feel sure. Let your eyes see signs instead of problems. Let your imagination roam only where you want your feet to follow. Be still within. The image is cast. The feeling is sealed. The world is simply catching up to what you've already lived in the unseen. It is done. It is done. It is done. Let it come.